we start the dancing, I would like to introduce you to my guest this week, Salome Sechele, a dancer with many ambitions. Hello, Salome, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining me.
Hello, Lilian.
Your ambitions and goals for dance,
Yes.
would you share them with us?
Well, I'd like to open my own dance studio one day and be a professional dancer and dance teacher.
Right. How many years have you been dancing, Salome?
About 16 years.
That's a long time.
Yes.
Goodness me. And what do you think the benefits are of freestyle dancing? How do you think it's benefited you?
Well, it's really kept me fit, and I've gotten to like it, and it's my hobby. You know, like I enjoy dancing and the music, and it's really fun. It is.
And as far as the little dancers that you're working with, because you're working with lots of little ones now as well, what do you think the benefits are for them?
First of all, it keeps them off the street, and they learn to get discipline and self-confidence. You know, they learn to stand out there and do their thing, and really they enjoy it.
Do you think freestyle, I see in a lot of the sections that we've looked at, freestyle's actually catered for a lot of solo sections, so in a way it actually benefits those that don't have partners. Do you find that happening when you're teaching?
Yes, it does, because immediately when they find they don't have partners, then they just feel that it's not worth it. Rather than go for something that you would feel proud of.
So the freestyle actually caters for everyone. You don't have to have a partner. You can just get out there
and
on
do
your own.
On your own. And if at all anything goes wrong, it's you to blame. You know.
Thank you very much, Salome. We'll come back in a few minutes. Let's have a look at some of the dancing. We're back with Salome, telling us more about her dancing. Salome, I'd like to know from you, how do you feel when you're on the competition floor?
Well, I feel nervous at first. But then immediately when the music starts, I know I've got my act ready, so there's no problem.
That's very good. Do you ever feel demoralized when you're competing and there are dancers on the floor that are very much better than you? Does it affect you in any way?
It does. It really does. Because, I mean, sometimes you'll find that you're on the floor with a person who's been said to be so perfect, and you just don't seem to feel okay about it. But then once you get on the floor and you concentrate on doing your own thing, actually feel like it doesn't matter.
Do you think it actually, dancing with other dancers that are better than you, do you think it actually forces you to increase your standard? Does it help you to work harder?
Yes, certainly. It certainly does, because the next time you will want to be like them, and immediately when you see what they are doing, you will automatically do what they are doing. Not realizing that you're doing it, but you will. Suddenly, all of a sudden, you have all that stamina to keep going when you didn't have it in class during practice, you see.
Right.
So,
Salome, you were telling me earlier about your competitive career, and you mentioned about when you went to Johannesburg to compete the first time. What happened the first time, and then will you please tell us what happened the second time you went?
Okay. The first time we went there, but we never made it to the heats. We just ended at the heats, you know, and it was very sad. Everybody was so sad because no one had made it. No one, including myself. You mean, I thought I was really good, but I wasn't. But then the second time we went, I had told myself that I was going to get a position there somewhere, and I did. I actually got that position, and during prize giving, I was so proud of myself. I was standing there, and I said, "There are two here. At least I've beaten two. That's halfway. It's halfway there. Maybe I have to get the first prize. You know, the first prize is not that far away, so it's a very good job that I've done. I felt very proud of myself, and I felt it was quite an achievement. It was.
It is an achievement in such a short space of time. So you'll be working very hard towards the competitions of the future.
Yes.
You're planning on achieving first place.
Certainly.
And all the little dancers that you're working with here, how are they doing?
Well, they're doing okay. They've only started a few months back, and you should see them. They are really coming on okay. They are fine. They are just going to be something else. I mean, if we had started at that age, we would have been champions by now. And they've got so many opportunities open for them, and they've got the talent. They've got the talent, they're willing to work, and they're just superb.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I wish you all the success for the future, and I hope that your competitors do well. Thank you, Salome. Welcome to the studio, Craig.
Thank you, Lilian.
As a male adjudicator, you have a different perspective, obviously, when you're judging. Could you give me some ideas to what you would be looking for?
When I'm adjudicating, I would look for someone who has a lot of strength, a lot of projection, supple dancer, someone who can really kick. Good kicks, a good spinner, a lot of speed, control. Basically look for everything, but generally a dancer who creates a big impact on audience and on your adjudicator.
So when the couples walk onto the floor initially, do you take into account how they walk onto the floor at all?
I think from the minute they walk on, you're aware. You're aware of their grooming, you're aware of their... You can see the confidence from the minute they walk on. You can really tell almost what they're going to do before they do it.
And also how experienced they are.
That's right.
And when they finish a section and they just collapse in absolute agony, is that also very important, how they leave the floor?
It's important how they leave the floor, but I think, by then they've already created the image. And I think all the adjudicators realize the stamina and the determination and strength it will take to get through a round.
Should also be presented nicely, though, when they do walk off the floor. I have seen a few couples collapse before they actually get off the floor. It's much better to rather die in the wings than on the floor. Craig, another thing I'd like to ask you about partnerships. You've been dancing with a partner for many years, so you'll be able to comment on this quite easily. Is it a good idea for you to have a partner and keep the partner for a long time to develop?
Well, you find a partnership is really like a marriage, I think, and you have to be faithful to one partner. If you keep changing, you never develop the standard that you could. You'll never achieve your goal.
Why
Obviously,
is that?
you build a togetherness. You almost become one person, and you build together. And each time you change a partner or whatever, you drop back. You fall back.
So when you're rehearsing, for example, a whole lot of choreography in front of a mirror, I'm just taking it as an example, doing shadow work in front of a mirror, you would develop the same kind of style, wouldn't you?
You develop a similar style. It actually takes a good few years to develop a similar style, but once it's there, you grow together from there, And the minute you change, you lose it.
You've got to start all over again.
That's right.
With the partners, do you at all advise the children or your pupils who they should dance with, or do you find they choose their own partners?
They generally tend to choose their own. When it comes to a higher level of competitor, in the beginning I'm never really fussy, I let them sort of partner up themselves. But I tend to prefer to actually be able to select
Put the right ones together.
You can pick up the styles and
aren't the
generally tune them up.
height and the sort of frame of the body very important?
Look, colouring, figure, everything will come into consideration in a partnership.
And obviously when they're dancing couples in freestyle, it's a little bit different to the ballroom and the Latin. They need to be very similar in height, isn't it? Or slightly shorter, the girls?
Depending, preferably a smaller girl with a bigger guy, especially if they're going to do lift work.
Oh, right.
Then it's more ideal, for that type of partnership.
I'd like to ask you about the participation of parents. Have you ever come across the problem of parents interfering and asking for their child to have their particular step, or interfering in choreography or anything like that?
Yes, you do. You have this problem a lot. Very difficult to overcome. Often the parents think they know better for their children.
Right.
Often not the case. Very difficult. Of course, a parent is a parent, but the teacher generally knows what is best for the child, and you only do what's best for the children. But
so you've got to be very diplomatic when you're asking them to stay out and sort of, but you don't mind them getting involved in all the fundraising side of things.
No, not at all. I mean, it's good to have the parent involvement. You want them to become involved in what their kids are doing. It's also not good for them just to sort of drop their kids off and think, oh, well, they go to their regular dance group or whatever.
Yes.
It's nice to have them involved, but there's a limit.
Right. Craig, also as adjudicating your pet hates now, let's share those with the competitors that are watching.
My biggest pet hate, I think, is a person who is not supple, really. Very low kicks, bent knees, weak runs, Generally just weak dancing is very off-putting. On the whole, there's smaller things like forward runs on heels instead of onto the ball of the foot, things like that are off-putting. But
there's one thing I'm going to ask you about that I've noticed when I've seen people dance competitions is they fiddle about with the costume. You know, as soon as they get onto the floor,
yes, pulling it here and there,
pulling it straight and all this kind of thing. Surely they've really got to try and see that everything's in place before they get on the floor.
You have to, and it's difficult, and the hair's falling down. You have that type of problem, but once again, that does worry me, but it's not my biggest pet hate, yes, but it is troubling to see that. So
you as adjudicator will be looking for strong dancing and making sure that the dancer is well rehearsed.
That's right, if they have to pull anything, preferably while you're not looking.
Right, okay, good. Thank you very much for joining us, Craig.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Lee. Thanks very much for joining us again. I'd like to know about the Rising Star section. This seems to be quite a popular section, and if you can just explain what Rising Star actually means.
Yes, the Rising Star is a solo section, a mixed solo, that means boys and girls can dance in the section, and it depends on what your status was at the beginning of the year as to whether you are eligible for that section. So during the year you may have moved up to championship, for instance, but you are still allowed to dance in the Rising Star section. So it really covers the starters, intermediates and some championship people. If you do well in that section, if you make a final or win the section, you may never go back to a starter section again.
Well, that means you're not a Rising Star anymore.
Well, you've risen.
Right.
So you are competing against people of a higher standard.
Right.
Therefore, you're no longer a starter. So it does affect your status in your age.
Now, with freestyle, could you tell me how old you have to be to actually start freestyle? Is there a specific age?
Not really. In some of the studios, they take them in from the age of 3. But I'm not keen on that myself. I prefer the child to be at least 6 or 7 years old. So they do have a little bit of coordination and concentration. As you know, we have to do a warm-up at the beginning of the lesson, which takes at least 10 to 15 minutes. And therefore we can't just do a half-an-hour lesson. They won't learn anything in that time. So I feel for a child to be able to concentrate, they should be at least 6 or 7 years old before they start, so that they can have a 3/4 of an hour or an hour lesson and take it in.
Do you have any children of your own?
I have 2 children. They do compete, yes. I have a boy and a girl, so I'm quite lucky I've got the right pair.
Little couple. And you quite happy that they're competing?
Yes, and they love it. It's the biggest punishment to tell them they'd have to give up their dancing. And of course, when I'm judging, I do have to stand down when they take part in the competition.
So you're not allowed to judge your own children?
No. It's a good thing.
Right, I think so, yes. Do you get to judge your own pupils at any time?
Yes, we do. When we are invited to judge, we are asked to be very honest with our opinion. My pupils suffer more when I judge because I do know what they're capable of.
Right. And you know their faults.
That's right, you know their faults and you like the style that you've taught them. And you have to be very open-minded and look at everybody that's on the floor. So they do actually have a hard time when you judge your own pupils.
So they're not happy when you're on the panel?
They don't comment.
Right. Beverley, back to the Rising Stars again. Does the status apply the same to the juvenile, juniors and adults?
Yes, it does. Yes, they have the same. Of course, they move up in their age groups. If they have made a final in the Rising Star section, when they move up in an age group, they cannot go back. Once they have been in a Rising Star final, they are of intermediate status and they can't go back to starters after that.
And in the Rising Star section, are they allowed, what kind of outfits are they allowed to wear?
Yes, it's totally free. It's open and they can go to whatever they want to for their costumes. And you can see that as they get higher in the sections and they do better, their costumes become better. They're more inclined to spend more money on their outfits. The parents want them to do better and are prepared to spend more money on their outfits.
Are there any particular guidelines that you as a studio principal would give parents when they are actually designing outfits or having outfits made? Are there any things that are really not allowed?
No, I wouldn't say there's anything not allowed in the open sections. To me, grooming is very important, and I'm not one for all the frills and tassels and that kind of thing. I'd far rather see a well-groomed, well-turned-out person with their hair in place. And to me, when you're judging, I think it really is important, your first impressions. Somebody that's well-groomed walks on the floor, I really do want to watch them dance.
At your studio, do you have practice sessions at all for your competitors to compete with one another, against one another, as it were?
I have practice sessions, but not to compete. I have practice sessions purely so that they can build up stamina and have a lot of people dancing on the floor around them and still dance full out and try out their floor craft and that type of thing.
Instead of fading away when someone gets too close.
That's right, because it is off-putting if you do bump into someone. So you have to try and learn to avoid them for yourself and for the other person.
Don't have any injuries. Do you have any first aid people on duty at competitions in case of injuries?
Unfortunately, we don't. It is one of the things that we've tried very hard to get, and I do think that it's very important in this form of dancing especially.
I know that all the teachers have a first aid qualification, but sometimes they're also busy running the competition and actually judging. It would be a better idea to have them.
Absolutely. Oh yes, I think it would be important to have that. We've tried, but we haven't succeeded yet. Hopefully we will.
Good. Thank you very much, Beverley. I wish you every success in the future with your studio.
Thank you.